Oh, friends, we are on such a journey together. I just recorded this whole vlog, sat down to edit it, and realized that I had accidentally recorded it in vertical format instead of horizontal because I was trying to be cute and use my foldy phone and, kind of fold it in half so it could sit up on its own. That seemed like a great video recording tool, but it changes the orientation of the footage. So I'm redoing it again. You don't know it, but we've already been hanging out for 30 minutes. So hi. I'm back. Sorry that it's been so long since I posted my last video. I hope you haven't been despairing in my absence. Of course, I got it together to post those first couple videos and then life came at me fast. So I fell a little bit behind on things. Since I last posted, I've been on vacation, which was great. I also interviewed for and accepted and started, actually as of today, a new job. So things are happening. And another thing that's happening is reading related, and I'm excited to share with you that my sister Audrey and I have finally decided, after much discussion and a little bit of feet dragging, to start the Rory Gilmore Reading Challenge. In addition to reading all the books on the list, I've decided to use this opportunity of doing this reading challenge to talk about books from an angle that is very near and dear to my heart, which is reading as a writer. So as I yap to you about each of the books that I've read and what the reading experience was like, I'm going to be paying special attention to the style or craft decisions in each of the books, as kind of a perspective to take when we're discussing them. There's a couple reasons that I want to do that. The first two are maybe kind of the same reason, I guess, that as an editor and as a writer, from both of those perspectives, I have found that it is super helpful to, in essence, take lessons from other writers. And it's a way that I love to read, especially books that I'm rereading, to consider what choices stylistically the author is making, what role they're serving, what they're doing well, and then to consider how I can either adopt or adapt those techniques in my own work or in the work of my clients. And then the other reason is because the list of books on the challenge includes a ton of classics. So I think that the question of what is this writer doing well and why is it working is especially interesting for me when I'm considering classics, because classics are, as the name implies, books that have stood the test of time. And there's a reason why teachers and students and readers have continued to return to those books time and time again. So, I just think that it's a collection of books that are particularly apt for taking those kind of writerly lessons from. So I hope that you'll enjoy that. I hope that it'll be helpful for other writers. I think it's going to be really helpful and inspiring for my own writing. I'm inching ever closer to the end of my first draft of the novel that I've been working on. I'd say I'm about 90% of the way through, and I am just grinding my gears trying to get that final 10%. So I think that this will come at a really good time for me and my own work as well. So for now, I wanted to show you the fun checklist poster that I have hanging in my office to keep track of and kind of commemorate this reading journey, and also talk to you about the first two books on the list, which I read in the past week or so. Here we are looking at my Rory Gilmore Reading Challenge poster. I'm sorry it's so dark. I tried to film this when there would be lots of light in the room so you could see it, and then I messed up the video. So it's dark now, so I'm not going to focus on it as long as I did. I ordered the digital print of this poster from a shop on Etsy, so I'll put the link in the show notes in case anyone else is interested. So that was just a print quality digital file, and then I ordered the print itself from Google Photos. And I have gone ahead and checked off the first books. Ooh, there we go. First books on the list. Well, I'm reading them in alphabetical order, except for I realized that Tom Sawyer comes before Huckleberry Finn. Huckleberry Finn is a sequel to Tom Sawyer. So I swapped the order of those. There are somewhere around 330 something books on the list. Of course, as I was looking around on the internet, there is some discrepancy about exactly how many books and which books are included on this list, because of course people are just creating these lists themselves and finding them on social media. So I'm gonna go off this list here because it seems as good as any. I did go through and count. I have read 57 of the books already, mostly in high school or in college, so it's been a while and I'm looking forward to revisiting a lot of them. But the first book I read was 1984, which is one that I read in high school. I really enjoyed revisiting it. I think this is such a cultural touchstone for so many reasons. And, you know, even a lot of the vocabulary that we use to talk about dystopian futures and overbearing governments and things like that come from this book. So I think it was really interesting to revisit it as an adult and after having read it so many years ago. In terms of reading 1984 like a writer, there are many lessons that you could take, but the one that was most notable to me is this novel is really a masterclass in world building. The protagonist, in this case Winston Smith, is actually learning and discovering things about the world as the novel unfolds. It's actually a really important component of the plot, is Winston learning more about Big Brother, learning more about the party and how it works, and gradually starting to act more and more on the suspicions and concerns that he had about the world that he's living in. So this essentially allows for Winston in some ways to stand in for the reader. And as Winston is realizing the reach of the party and as he gets access to the book, which is basically the kind of rebellions, the supposed rebellions description of the party and how it maintains control. Winston is reading that and learning it and getting his suspicions validated as the reader is having that same experience. I was trying to think of other writers who use this method effectively. I think Harry Potter is a great example. So especially in the first novel, but really throughout the series, Harry is learning about the world alongside the reader. And that just makes the world building feel so visceral, so organic, so compelling, and it really enables the author to kind of drop in lots of creative, really deep, interesting details about the world. And it doesn't feel burdensome or overwhelming to the reader because the character is processing it on the page as well. So the reader kind of has that built-in processing time and that intimacy. The second book that I read on the list is The Adventures of Tom Sawyer by Mark Twain. I actually listened to the audiobook for this one. So the Audible Originals audiobook is narrated by Nick Offerman, and he is just chef's kiss, perfect narrator choice for this book. I actually think he'd be an incredible narrator for any book, but his timing and his accents and his dialogue and everything were just a really great fit. And I think actually listening to his narration underscored the craft or style observations that I had for this book, which were all about sense of humor and comedic timing, and how Mark Twain sort of aligns this gently ironic but loving sense of humor with his protagonist and his protagonist's youthful perspective and kind of, you know, Tom Sawyer is a troublemaker. And so he's got this sort of playful, mischievous feel about him and sense of humor. And Mark Twain's writing also has that similar kind of mischievous, sweet but not saccharine and not, you know, overly sweet sense of humor. And they just align so well that it makes Tom Sawyer and all his superstitions and his just all the havoc that he wreaks very endearing, and you can kind of laugh with him as a reader, not at him, even though there is some level of that ironic distance that exists between an adult reader and an adult author and a child protagonist. So yeah, I think the lesson that I would like to take away from Tom Sawyer is Mark Twain's really expert aligning of his narrative voice and style with the protagonist's general outlook and voice as well. So it synergized, and it really made it sing. And if anyone is interested, I highly recommend the Nick Offerman narrated version. I'm listening to Huck Finn now, which is narrated by Elijah Wood, and he's also doing very well. Although I would say that Huck Finn feels less, it's less light. Tom Sawyer definitely gets into some very serious scraps, but Huck Finn, the book is a little bit more mature. I think it deals with some more mature themes, and Huck's life experiences compared to Tom's, I think, lead him to be a little bit less prone to that kind of mischievous sense of humor. He's also mischievous, but it has a little bit more of a serious undercurrent. So I think Elijah Wood actually is a great fit for that as well. I really enjoyed reading that, and I'm enjoying reading Huck Finn. I don't think that I have read either one, and it can be kind of hard to say because this is another example of a story that is just so prolific, I guess, in our culture. That's not the right word, but I know the story even not having read the book. And as I was listening to it, I also was recalling the Wishbone episode. So that made me look back over the list of all the Rory Gilmore titles. And I think that several of the books on the list I have not read, but I feel quite intimately familiar with because I loved and watched over and over again the Wishbone episode. So shout out to any other millennials who had their introduction to classical literature from Wishbone. And I might have to look up a couple old episodes to support my reading of some of these books. But I will be back on soon with my next novel reading. So I'm going to be finishing The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. And then I have Alice's Adventures in Wonderland by Lewis Carroll. And I think All the President's Men by Carl Bernstein and Bob Woodward. So that is not one that I've read, and the title is familiar, but I'm actually not really sure what to expect about that with that one. So it'll be a fun adventure, and I'll be sure to loop you in on it. Until then, be well.